anyways, moving on to the final game we will dive in depth to. This is an interesting one to me. It is the Houston Texans at the Baltimore Ravens. The Baltimore Ravens, the Houston Texans are going to be 1.5 point favorites on the road. 39.5 is the over-under. Minus 125 for Houston on the money line, plus 105 for Baltimore. Raider Jim, obviously this line makes me believe Lamar Jackson is not going to be playing. I will check as I ask for your thoughts. Houston at Baltimore.
Yeah, I've seen mixed things, but what the lean is that he will not be under center this week and possibly even the week after this. And if that's the case, what a difference the lack of him under center makes, because you wouldn't. When was the last time you saw Baltimore under 40 points?
Yeah,
I mean, that's silly. But if he's not going to be under center and Houston's playing pretty decent ball, guess what? I agree with what the professional handicappers are saying. I'm going to take money line on Houston on this one, but I think they will go out there. The defense will put up a good game. Offense is going to put up points. Baltimore is going to struggle, and it's going to show. And I think it's panic time in Baltimore. I think they're going to fall to 1-4. So give me money line Houston over under 39.5. I think it's going to be under 39.5. I don't think a lot of points are going to get put up.
Yeah. It's interesting because the last few years, obviously, I don't think Lamar Jackson has played in all 17 games in his career. But they've always had a guy like Tyler Huntley or a guy like maybe even Josh Johnson that can kind of quasi run that offense with a bit of a more mobile quarterback. Well, now they have Cooper Rush, and I Cooper Rush, a good backup for the Cowboys, but it doesn't exactly translate in terms of, athletic ability. So that's going to be interesting. Maybe one of the bigger issues are the other players. I mean, just going through the Lamar Jackson, when I searched to see his injury update, it does not look like he is going to play, although apparently the Texans are preparing like he is going to play no matter what the injury report says. But a lot of the other headlines also say not only do we see Lamar Jackson not participating in practice, but Ronnie Staley and Roquan Smith, same thing there. And those are two massive pieces on the offense and defense going forward that no matter who's behind or under center, that needs to be either figured out. But you mentioned it. If you would have told us when Sunday night, week 1, excuse me, it's 40-25 Baltimore. Someone, time traveler hops into your room and says, hey, not only is Baltimore going to lose this game, but they are going to be 1-3, possibly 1-4 heading into week 4 or week 6, I should say. That would have been crazy. I like Houston here. I think Houston is a team that's not ever going to impress you with everything that they can do, but they do enough to stick around, and they're well coached. CJ Stroud, for the most part, doesn't make those game-breaking bad decisions. He'll make some head-scratching decisions, but not the ones that really, really hurt teams. Maybe a game manager, that's okay. I know that used to be a dirty word back in the day, but game managers make a lot of money in this league. I like Houston here. Obviously, I am going with the assumption that it is Cooper Rush. And the other part of this, too, is regardless of what happens this week, Lamar Jackson has a hamstring injury. That's going to stick with you. That is going to be there all year, unless, you take extended time off. And again, what does that do for him going forward? It's really unfortunate because it just seems like every time we get a chance to see Lamar unleashed, something like this happens. I really do like Lamar. It's kind of like Dak Prescott. You're like, hard not to root for this guy. And it's seems like it's never going to happen for him, unfortunately. But in terms of this week, give me Houston. I'll take the money line minus 125. And I am going to go with the over here. I think that number is just a little too low. Guess what? Derrick Henry is still in the backfield. I think Zay Flowers is still running routes. I think we're going to see some points being scored. Nothing crazy, but 39.5, as you mentioned, that's wild for a Baltimore game. Any stretch of the imagination. And also the other side of it, even with Roquan Smith, Baltimore's defense just might be bad. And that's something I don't think I've ever seen in my life. I don't think I've ever seen the Ravens have a bad defense. So that's another issue. But we'll see. Houston at Baltimore. We're both on Houston. And finally, some of these other games that we'll just kind of, if we have any thoughts, we do have that London game. Minnesota, Carson Wentz, they stayed in the United Kingdom. They are going to be 3.5-point favorites against the Cleveland Browns. As you mentioned, Dylan Gabriel getting the start across the pond. 36 is your over-under, folks. Carson Wentz, Dylan Gabriel in London. Well, that's an export for you. Anyways, the money line side of that, minus 185 for Minnesota, plus 160 for the Brownies. Miami, going to be even money as they head to Carolina, even money on the money line. Carolina, 1.5-point favorites, 44.5. Carolina minus 120. And I know there are a lot of people just shaking their fists that we didn't talk about this absolute barn burner between the Dolphins and the Panthers. But hey, our time is valuable here, folks. Tennessee heading to the desert to face the Arizona Cardinals. Raider Jim, you mentioned it. And even Cam Ward in his post-game press conference said what I think a lot of us were thinking. We ass. And that was a direct quote as well. Tennessee is plus 360 on the money line. Arizona minus 500. They're going to be 8-point favorites with an over-under sitting at 41.5. Detroit, 10-point favorites at Cincinnati. 10.5-point favorites at Cincinnati. The over-under there is going to be 49. Detroit minus 550 on the money line, plus 390 for Cincinnati. One stat that I did hear that's just almost unfathomable, but it encapsulates what we've seen since Joe Burrow has left, or has been injured, I should say. In the last 2 games, the Cincinnati Bengals have been outscored 14-13 when they're on offense. Now we're doing a little manipulating of the numbers because technically you only score 6 points on a touchdown, but 2 pick sixes against I believe it was Minnesota, pretty much given 14 points, and Jake Browning's offense has only scored 13. So really kind of shows you what Cincinnati's offense is doing without Joe Burrow. Maybe he does actually win MVP despite only playing 2 games, because I think he might be the literal most valuable player in the National Football League. And finally, an AFC East matchup that got a little bit of intrigue after New England's win last week. The Patriots are heading to Buffalo to face the Bills. The Bills are going to be 7.5-point favorites in this one. The over-under is 49. That will be your Sunday night football game, plus 300 for New England on the money line, minus 400 for Buffalo. Raider Jim, any thoughts on the remaining games?
Actually, I do. And here's my question. I think it might have been week 1, definitely week 2. We saw point spreads for, say, the Bills, and it might have been the Bills both times, plus, and I can't remember the other game, 13 points, 16 points, 15 points. How do you have the Lions playing the Bengals and it's only a 10.5-point spread? That makes no sense to me. If you want to see a game where it should be 12 to 15 points, that's the game. But again, somebody knows something that we don't know. So I'll be curious to see what we end up with on that one. I'd be willing to buy a point and take Detroit 9.5, and I think I'd score on that one, and I probably will. I'm with you. You'd like to think that New England might have a chance against Buffalo, and then I kind of like wake up and I'm not in Oz anymore, or I'm not in Kansas anymore. So 7.5, probably going to cover that. Buffalo is just lining people up. They don't care. Hey, who's next in line? Let's take them. And I think that's just going to be their whole method of operation through the entire season. They just look unbeatable right now. Other than that, the rest of the games, boy, if you really want to wake up at 6:30 on the West Coast and watch the Vikings and the Browns, you've got a problem. Call 1-800, make me stop.
Yeah, get some rest. Goodness gracious. That person can never tell anyone I'm tired. If you're waking up 6:30 on the West Coast to watch Carson Wentz versus Dylan Gabriel, goodness gracious. But no, I agree with you. The one thing I will say with that big spread, I wonder if last week maybe scared Vegas a little bit, because that plus 16 or plus 16 and a half, whatever it finished up at, it was really never in doubt. New Orleans, they were never seriously contending to win that game, except for there were small parts in the first half. But when the game really got going, but they were also never going to cover 17 or whatever it was. And I do wonder if Vegas goes, okay, maybe we need to dial that back a little bit.
Right.
And also, now this would be more relevant if it was later in the season, but I guess maybe the only other thing I could say, it's a dome team going outdoors in the North. But again, it's October. I can't imagine weather's going to be an issue in Cincinnati other than maybe some rain. But I don't think we're in snow time yet.
No weather issues on any of the games.
So there you go. But yeah, I that spread 10.5. Not going to touch that one, but I do like New England. I do like New England plus 7.5. I don't know. Drake May, there are moments where he goes out and he looks like he is it. But then there are moments for that New England defense that's just going to really struggle, I think, against Buffalo. I think the over might be a better play in that one for Sunday night. Just no ties. That's all I ask. No ties.